Welcome back to Vote 2024 with me, Camilla Tominey. So Bridget Phillipson, who's the woman who hopes to be the next Education Secretary, has not ruled out scrapping the guidelines that were very recently introduced by the Tory government to control how children are taught about transgenderism in schools. And the guidelines clearly state that actually a child's different gender shouldn't be automatically affirmed, and that their parents should be informed if somebody has decided that they want to identify as a different gender. And also, just when it comes to teaching sex and biology, that children shouldn't be taught that there are various different genders. So Bridget Phillipson has suggested, and she hasn't ruled out, so she hasn't said for definite that she would scrap these guidelines, but she's very much hinted that Labour would want to change them. She says because they contain unnecessary language. Well, to talk about this is Maya Forstater, who's the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Sex Matters. Maya, thanks for joining me. What's your reaction to this? I mean, do these guidelines contain, quotes, unnecessary language?
I think there's been quite a lot of confusion about this. So I think what Bridget Phillipson was talking about was not the guidance on teaching children about sex and gender, which comes under RSHE, of which there has been guidance, but the guidance on what schools do when they have a child who says, right, I think I'm born in the wrong body, or I feel unhappy. And what she said was that schools really do need guidance, and that she was going to look at the consultation responses that had come in. So the government has published this guidance for consultation. Hundreds of people responded: teachers, parents, students, psychologists, all sorts of people. And she said she's going to read the responses. So I think, you know, that's not a bad answer from someone who wants to be in government. What's crucial is that they do finalise guidance and make it really clear for teachers what they should do.
And what do you think teachers should do? What's the position of Sex Matters on this?
Well, we think the government should provide schools with a model policy. So like individual teachers, individual head teachers shouldn't have to work this out for themselves. The government should tell them, this is what you should do, this is what the law says, and if you get sued, we'll stand behind you. That's what teachers want. That's what head teachers want. And what we think that guidance should say is that schools should always remember that every child has a sex, and that sex cannot change. And you need to be clear what sex every child is in order to keep them safe, in order to keep their classmates safe, in order to treat them fairly. And then if you have a child who feels unhappy about their body or is going through gender distress, you treat that child in the same way that you treat any other child that is having behavioural or psychological issues that the school can help them through. But what you can't do at school is say, we will treat you as if you're the opposite sex.
So this default sort of affirmation you think should end. And equally, finally, Maya, are you happy with it just being guidance? Because we did a story on the Telegraph saying that the guidance that had been issued was being ignored by a lot of schools. The journalists focused on the Southwest. But a lot of people are saying this needs to be statutory guidance. It can't just be guidance that teachers take or leave depending on their own feelings.
I think what it needs to be is clearer. So the guidance that was put out, it said there are all of these issues that you've got to think about. You need to think about the age of the child, what they're going through, their background, in order to decide whether you should treat the child as the opposite sex, whether you should call a boy a girl in any circumstances. We think if you made the guidance much clearer, and if the government stood behind it and said, if somebody sues you for following this guidance, we will stand behind you. We will take that case with you. Then that would give schools the reassurance that this is the safe thing to do, this is the right thing to do, and they can do it without getting in trouble, because that's what head teachers want. They just want to know, they want to get on with teaching and not worrying about sex and gender.
OK, Maya Forstater, thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening.